Woo, here we go. It looks like sound's working. That's exciting. I can't get the proper streamy thing to work anymore, which means I don't see the comments until they show up here. Kind of laggy, but I'll do my best. Taking a break from laundry, as you can probably see. I should stop sitting on the floor to do these things. It's so unprofessional. But you know what? I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional. Some people are professionals, allegedly. And most of them turn out to be pretty disappointing, huh? Maybe professionals are not the future. Yeah. So speaking of professionals who disappoint, Lauren Southern announced she's quitting. No, I shouldn't be mean. I don't know I don't know enough to kind of judge that sort of stuff. My gut feeling about it is like, it's probably better. It's probably better if she goes and has babies. That's usually the answer. That's usually the answer for women. Although many women have demonstrated that it is possible to do both. You can do both. Why can't I remember her name? Oh my gosh, there's like the one of the great conservative, maybe only conservative woman of all time, had like 5 kids or something like that. What is her name? Why can't I remember her name? Anyway, super famous. I'm dumb. I can't remember names. I'm dumb about names. Ann Coulter is one who matters for sure. That might be the end of the list. I mean, Lauren kind of looks like she could be the Ann Coulter 2.0 on a couple of points, but I think she went around and tried to find a niche that worked for her. And she is very intelligent. She's very good on those on the spot interviews. I kind of think she would have been good if she had like teamed up with InfoWars and done kind of like what Caitlin Bennett is doing now. That's probably actually her niche, but I think it wasn't satisfying for her, maybe intellectually or something like that. So she tried kind of the campus speaking gig, and she's okay. She's not naturally amazing at the speech thing. She's much better in the interaction. She's very fast on her feet, and has a very solid take on kind of the facts, the kind of information that you need to totally own the libs, to totally own the campus SJWs, blah, blah, blah. So that, that kind of worked, but, then she wanted to do this sort of serious journalism thing. And I think that actually she probably is quite good at that. You never know, what's behind the scenes, who's just the talking head or whatever. From the little I know of her personally, I just don't see her taking that sort of approach or being happy like that. If that is what she's doing, that would be another explanation for why she quit. But I don't think so. I think she actually is quite good at this deep dive investigative journalism type stuff with these documentaries. Unfortunately, that's not the era that we live in, right? Like the era where that stuff is important, where that stuff moves the needle. That's not now. We're in an era of rhetoric, to say the least. And while that could be very powerful rhetoric, I think she wanted to do, serious journalism, which is totally understandable. It's not the time. And if you're going to do it, you can't do things like put your premiere on YouTube where it's obviously going to be taken down. Unless it's part of some larger strategy, which it really doesn't seem to have been. I mean, she's not mainstream enough for people to be upset that she does something like that. Thanks, John. I did my makeup especially for the lunch stream, which isn't happening today. Got up early and everything. Blah. Blah. You know what? Can I just be shady for a second? I shouldn't do this, but like, I'm just amazed at the amount of makeup that people wear. I'm sorry. I'm going to sound like an old person. I'm going to I remember I wear more makeup than people think, than men think, because men are very confused about makeup. Like I remember in junior high, I was in class with my best friend at the time, this Russian girl. Oh no, I just revealed my Russian connections. Delete, delete, delete. Don't share this. Don't screen cap. Anyway, so my Russian friend and me, and there's some stoner guy in class, and he was just like, "Why do girls wear so much makeup, man? Like, look at you two. Like, Katrina looks so good, and you look like you probably don't need to wear so much makeup." My friend was wearing zero makeup, and I was wearing, I don't know. Not, I mean, there's one could wear more, but I was wearing at least like 5 different makeup like items, right? I mean, it was like foundation, 2 colors of eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, probably because I didn't really do blush and stuff at the time, so that was awkward. But then on the other hand, it's like when I see people, especially what they do for screen, right? I mean, this is just, yeah, if you're on like TV, I understand TV makeup and the harsh lights and how they like wash people out and stuff, but it's like if you're just kind of doing on the street journalism or being like, doing these chill streams or whatever, I just don't understand. The reason I mention this is just because one time Lauren, she interviewed that pigeon dude, Black Pigeon Speaks, right? And she like did her makeup like on like a speed up thing, and so she started off without having her makeup on, and she looked great because she's beautiful and she has like perfect skin. And then she went and did makeup, and I was just like, holy cow, like there's like a lot going into that. I'm just like, really? I don't know. It's like you could do, just tinted moisturizer when you have skin like hers. You could probably just do powder, honestly, like, cause you don't want the shiny thing with the camera, but like, I don't know. It was a lot. I was just surprised it keeps going, especially the eyebrow stuff. People are so like, oh, I got my eyebrows like this. And I don't know, maybe if people didn't do that, their eyebrows would be like terrible. I do nothing to my eyebrows, so I don't understand. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to make this about makeup. I'm surprised by like how much goes on. I mean, it's just kind of one of those funny parallels to me with like clown world, right? As like the sort of meme of the day, or like the spirit of the environment. And then I feel like when I watch these people, it's like literally clown makeup going on. It's like, it's so thick. And then like I've seen these people in real life. That's how they do their makeup all the time. I don't know. They go to a riot with like that amount of makeup. John's natural. I know natural eyebrows look so much better. I'm sorry. I don't understand the eyebrow thing. I wish I could grab this magazine right now, but like every women's focus magazine, every parenting magazine, which like if you want to be depressed, like pick up a parenting magazine, like half of the articles are totally paused. The other half is literally just stuff for like women. It's just a beauty magazine, like parenting magazine, family circle, all that stuff. It's like at least as many like beauty tips and whatever for women as it is like recipes to actually like feed and nourish your family. Now, of course, it's important to look good. You should try to look good like for your husband and stuff like that, and like set a good example for your kids. But it's like, it's not that hard. Like, I don't think there's enough to fill like half an issue every month or whatever. But yeah, the eyebrow thing, the beginning of every one of those magazines right now has this ad for this eyebrow product, and it's out of control. It's like, I showed it to my husband, and I was just like, which one do you think is the before and the after, right? Like, which one is like the eyebrow that you're supposed to want? Like the ad is trying to like say, like, get this product and you have this brow. And he was like, that one. I was like, no, it's that one. Like the after you put on the before one looks great. It looks fine. It's a great eyebrow. And then like after that, it's like, you need to pluck. Okay. You need to like not have a like unibrow. Even if you're blonde and have pretty good eyebrows, you probably have like some hairs growing between. Just pluck them. They'll like die. Like you don't have to do it very long. You do it for like 10 years and they're basically all gone, right? Maybe you need to do like a little more around the edge too, but like maybe you clip max. This is like max, right? Maybe you go get threaded. I don't know. Most of the time I see threading, it looks like it gets a little like overly groomed. But yeah, like then it's like, okay, no, now we need to like glue them to our head. And I have somewhat unruly eyebrows, and I still don't feel like I need to do all this stuff, right? We're gonna like draw it on with a marker. I mean, it's like, it's not like that thing of like shave it off and like draw it on up here. Like it's not as bad as it's been. But it's like pretty ridiculous. I just don't get it. I mean, there's some makeup where I was like, when I was younger, I was like, most people look better without makeup. And then I was like, okay, that's true, but only because most people suck at makeup. Once you get really good at it, it's like, no, just about anyone can be made prettier with it if they do the right thing. But like just following whatever trend is not going to be that, right? It's like, oh, is like winged eyeliner like really the best look for you personally? I do it sometimes, because whatever, it's fun, but it doesn't look good on me. It's not a good pick. My eyes are too small for one thing. But yeah, if we could just ban all brow products, I actually think, and then like send everyone a pair of tweezers, we'd be much better off. We'd be much better off aesthetically as a country. But anyway, yeah, I just don't understand like doing this full makeup. Like, okay, so as long as I'm ranting about makeup, right? So this coverage stuff here, this is like basically a tinted moisturizer. I used to use literally a tinted moisturizer, but I couldn't find one without sunscreen in it once I found out that sunscreen is literally poison and will kill you. So don't use sunscreen. But so I switched to MAC's like full body foundation, which is basically like a tinted moisturizer. It's like very, very sheer. And you can kind of control like how sheer it is. You can layer it and stuff like that. So it's not much different than like just wearing powder. That's kind of it, right? And it's like, I'm old. That's why I need this now. I'm old. And if this was like 5 years ago, I wouldn't even have needed that. Like, you know, on camera stuff, right? It would just be like powder or something like that. So I don't get it. I don't understand this like China, I call it China doll makeup. I don't know if there's actually a term for it, but like this, like when you put on so much foundation that you're just totally white and then you have to draw back on all of your contours. Like that's the trick, right? That's the cool makeup, like the theatrical makeup, or if you ever seen this crazy video of this chick who makes herself look like the dude from 9 Inch Nails, it's amazing. It takes a long time, but you can, and this is also something you can learn from drag, you can like basically erase your entire face and like redraw it, because you can draw like what the shadow should look like and like trick people that you look like completely different. And it's pretty neat that people can do that. But if you do this like to cover up, I don't know, you have freckles and you want to do makeup so thick people can't tell you have freckles or whatever, you just do this out of habit to like paint this like total like plaster face on, then you have no choice but to draw the contours back on. And if you're honest, like you'll just draw like the actual contours that exist on your face. But I just feel like it's this weird thing. It's like, just wear a lighter foundation and you'll still see the contours of your face. And anyway, whatever. This is not what I was here to talk about at all. What was I supposed to talk about? I want to talk about something. So basically what I'm trying to get in the habit of, and it's never going to happen because I have a baby and life is too unpredictable. And I also, as the name of this implies, I get mad online and then I fizzle out like in an hour. So by the time it's evening and I'm like, oh, I should go actually stream about this thing, I just don't care about the topic anymore. But let me find the thing I was thinking about because, oh, right. So there was this video that came out recently. Here it is. Okay. This video of a guy actually in Boulder, in Colorado, so kind of my home turf. A guy like picking up trash outside of a building and then a police officer kind of bugging him about it. And then it's like, oh, he lives in the building, but he can't prove that he lives in the building. Do I have a flexible thumb? No, I have no idea. Okay. Anyway, I know my other fingers aren't flexible at all. Yeah, so he's like, you know, picking up trash, the cops harassing him, asking him for identification because that's a dormitory, it's private property, something. So what I wanted to talk about, so I kind of tweeted a little bit about how I'm not a fan of this. So before I dive into my kind of rant, like Gavin McInnes, who I follow on Telegram, which is a really cool place to like just get unfiltered awesomeness from the people who used to make the internet fun, who've been banned everywhere. So my recs would be like Gavin, Laura Loomer, and Milo. Although, you know, your mileage may vary with Loomer. I still think she's a very entertaining follow. Yeah, so Gavin had an interesting point that was basically like, this guy's probably like, I think it did turn out he's like a rookie cop and he wasn't doing his job very well. And so now something's been like kind of construed to be something that it wasn't. And I'm sure that that's true. But I am not a fan of this police state nonsense, right? Like I mean, it's part and parcel of the attempt at this multicultural society. Of course, there's lots of reasons why it happens. But the main thing I want to talk about is like the fact that this is not, so people see something like this happen. And like Sarah Silverman made a response to it that was just like, this is just 1/10 of 1/1000th of what people of color experience every day. And white people had no idea. Okay. As though she speaks for white people. Right. So if you have no idea, this is my personal take. If you have never had an experience like this, then you live a very sheltered existence and it's self-imposed. So by sheltered, I mean you have never strayed from the spaces that are meant for you, that are designed for you, that are controlled by your people, where you are explicitly welcome, where everything is basically like there for you. I am visibly not a minority, right? For now in America. I have never looked sketchy that I can imagine in any way for anything except for my age, for anything except for being young or looking young. I never had a phase where I was like goth or like full of piercings or dressing down or something like that. Pretty much, I've been pretty consistent with the style stuff and the way I carry myself and all of that. Okay, I have been stopped and questioned by police, similar to what happened to this guy. Although, and this guy, the guy ends up pulling a gun because it escalates, right? That's not happened to me. But as far as being stopped and questioned by police, why are you here? Give me your identity. Where do you live? Why are you here? Blah, blah, blah. This kind of harassing behavior to try and get me out of an area 5 times. 5 times in my life, including twice in my hometown. Okay. In addition to that, I've been followed by staff in stores who were concerned that I was going to be shoplifting. And this is because I grew up in a rich area and I was a kid at one point, right? Growing up in the rich area. So they don't like when young people who probably don't carry American Express black cards around with them go into their store full of $400 jeans or whatever, right? I used to live on the south side of Chicago. Anytime there's a very limited area on the south side where it's acceptable to be white, if you walk outside of that area, I'm not kidding, for like more than like 3 minutes, I guarantee you a cop will show up. I guarantee you. One time I was biking back down and I accidentally took the wrong exit off of the bike path along the lake. And I got off the exit and I literally just had to turn around and go back because I realized before I even got off of it that I got off too early, right? So I get off to turn around and literally screeching tires, like cop pulls up the second I get off and is like, why are you here? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Because they think the only reason that a white person would be in a black area is because they're there to buy drugs. And their main job is to do this drug war bullshit. Right. So all this tells me when someone makes a big show about how like white people never get treated like this. I can't relate to the black experience because this never happened to me, blah, 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 blah. It tells me that they've been ridiculously safe their entire lives, that they've never strayed into an area that doesn't belong to them. Right, that they're not perfectly safe in, where everyone is on their side. And that's really sad. That's really sad. And it's especially sad that those are the exact same people who think that they get to basically make decisions for everybody, right, and represent everybody. It's like you have no diversity of experience in your life, whatever your other diversity credentials are, right, like based on your genetics or whatever. You have no diversity of experience in your life. And yeah, I don't know. It's like it's so odd because I used to work for the police. I come from a family where like everybody's in the military and stuff. I am, in my heart of hearts, sort of a pro-police, pro-military, like yay, serve and protect, like kind of person. I get on very well with police officers when I know them personally. But I don't like this police state stuff. And even with all of that, like I said, 5 times I've been pulled over for looking wrong for the area that I was in. Right. Sometimes pulled over in a car, sometimes on a bike. It's also happened just on foot. I've been berated by, half jokingly, but I've been berated by a black police officer for reading a book. And that, like I said, it was a joke. I knew it was a joke, but this is not exactly appropriate behavior. Someone, with a gun, with the power to drag me off and throw me into some of the worst jails in the country, making a joke about, me not being allowed to read a certain book in a public space, is not something I think is the appropriate way for law enforcement to behave. But this is stuff that's happened to me, just going about my business, like living my life, right? I mean, because I don't just do like what's expected, I guess. I mean, I'm not like some sort of rebel who tries to go out of my way to do like have unique experiences. I don't go backpacking in Afghanistan or like anything like that. I just kind of, I don't know. So that makes it very revealing to me, like how sheltered the people who say this stuff has never happened to them must be, right? It's like you must have never done anything interesting in your entire life, and you're like have this whole public existence based around like trying to project this idea that you're super interesting and unique and daring and brave and hashtag resist, right? And all this stuff. And it's like, y'all are the biggest babies. Like you're the most sheltered, pathetic, just group of people that I can imagine who've like never taken a real risk in your entire life. Like not even the risk of like going to get chop suey in the wrong neighborhood or something like that. So anyway, that was one thing I was mad online about. Oh yeah, Telegram. I already gave my plug for Telegram. So I'm really, really enjoying Telegram. So basically, as far as I can tell, it's like a messaging app. It's basically like being in WhatsApp, but like with some celebrities tweeting at you. And then I guess you can comment on their posts. But it's like imagine Twitter if Twitter was just Milo, right? Like what could be better than that? I'm super into it. I'm really enjoying it. And I definitely recommend checking it out because right now, at least until, we'll see if they get banned from there. Well, it's your only option since these people are banned from every platform that matters. But it's also interesting to see them kind of regrouping and talking strategy. Nick Monroe is on there as well, by the way, if you're a fan of his journalism. But yeah, there are, as much as I feel like what we're used to seeing, because all the people who are left on social media are the feckless, disorganized, kind of helpless, right? And a lot of that is, and the grifters, right? Which is related. That's sort of why they are feckless and helpless, because their goal is not what their goal is represented to be. Their goal is fame, and every time someone gets banned, that's better for them because there's less competition. So really we're down to pretty freaking like painfully normie conservatives on there. And then the people who actually move the needle, the people who actually make a difference, who are actually dangerous, are all banned. And that matters. There's a big thing of people trying to say, oh, these platforms don't matter. Oh, the tech stuff it's going to burn out, like blah, 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 whatever. Like, yeah, eventually you'll get there, but no, it does matter, right? Like your influence is hugely undercut when you're banned from this stuff. And one thing, Laura Loomer's been ranting about totally justly that people don't realize is like what these bans do for the people, just like their lives, right? I mean, because I think we look at it and we're like, oh, boohoo, you're banned from Twitter, like big deal, whatever. Well, what happens is one thing, like you're a public figure. And so that to a much different extent than a normal person like me, or like you guys, is like, that is one of your spheres where like your job basically, like it's like, you're still like, especially with when you're like a journalist, like Laura and Nick are, it's like you still have a job at the company, but you're like banned from actually going in the building, right? Like you are still trying to do your job. That's your livelihood. That's how you're going to make money, but you're not allowed to talk to anyone, and you can't show up and turn in your projects or get any help from anyone, right? You're just there on your own. And then on top of that, other people, you're banned, but other people aren't banned from talking about you. Now, in some cases, stuff is totally blocked, like Tommy Robinson's name on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff. But, people can still talk shit about Laura Loomer and do all day long and spread all kinds of falsehoods about her. And she has difficulty even knowing that that's happening, let alone does she have the ability to respond to it. So that's like grossly unfair, because especially when these people are celebrities, like this affects their life now, right? It's like you go out in the actual world and you meet actual people who believe horrible things about you that are completely untrue. And you just really are pretty helpless in that situation. So for that reason alone, I recommend kind of following these people, because it at least gives them the chance to respond and, be accountable, hold themselves accountable, and hold the people lying about them accountable. Just know you're hearing both sides, right? Like we talk all the time about how are we going to find out like what's the truth in this whole world of fake news. Now, of course, these figures can spread fake news on their own accounts, but it's a lot easier to deal with that stuff when it's like, okay, I've heard both sides. They can provide documentation or not. You can interact with them. They're actually accessible to you, unlike the blue check marks on Twitter who just lie or do horrible things with impunity, like we're seeing right now with this doxing like fiasco, with this poor parolee in related to that Pelosi video, which just seems like now was not even the right person. Beyond that, never mind that even if it is the right person, it's probably illegal. It's probably illegal harassment. But it depends on the state. I'm not sure about the state what jurisdiction that would apply. So yeah, that's fun. And then the other thing is seeing them kind of talk strategy. What's interesting in the Telegram conversation that is seeing them talk strategy about, how do we continue to move the needle even when we're hounded out of the public eye? How do we get things to change? What can we push out? And you can help with this. You can literally be, instead of just being some whatever on Twitter, like retweeting into oblivion, getting shadow banned, whatever, you can actually get specific material, very easily packaged, handed to you, sort of marching orders, I guess, to help push this stuff out and still let these people have a kind of influence that, basically you and me are never going to have on our own, because some people just have that star quality, and Milo is one of them, and the rest of us are not nowhere even close. So I highly recommend his channel, Gavin's channel. There's a Tommy Robinson one on there. It's not as interesting to me because it's pretty focused on the UK politics. But if you're into that stuff or based there, I would recommend it. Yeah, Brian is saying it's crazy how censored all social media is. It's changed how people are acting throughout the whole society. Yes, absolutely. So what I didn't quite finish saying is it's not just that people are deplatformed from social media and banned from this whole area which is commerce, where things are happening, right? And the fact that it affects them in their personal lives, but they're like getting banned by their banks, right? Like the banking stuff, the trial balloons have been done for banking. They're being done for credit cards, right? You can't use PayPal. Even if you just individually happen to know this person and you want to send the money on a platform that should be totally neutral, that has no political angle to it whatsoever, they're banned there too. Right? Exactly. Bottom-up social change is not what's going to happen. So I think that it's important for us to rally behind these figures that have a proven ability to move the needle, which is why they're banned. If they're not banned, they're not moving the needle. And trust them, basically, and support them when they have an idea. Now, of course, like I said, you can interact with them. You don't have to just swallow hook, line, and sinker everything that they're telling you, but figure out who you can trust. For me, a heuristic for that is, what did they do when Milo was banned? Did they cuck out, or did they offer him interviews? That's a very simple one. Did they offer their platform to him, or did they stay silent? So now we're seeing the, in my opinion, pretty overdue downfall of Steven Crowder, who was there was a big red flag there, that he wants to have all these guests and seem edgy, similar to the intellectual dark web, right? He wants to seem all edgy, but then he won't talk to the people who are actually banned. And then you also have a lot of mainstream people who are anyway going to be next on the chopping block. But this is the strategic thing that Milo is pushing on Telegram, which is basically #ban Crowder. Crowder, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, like any of these people. Well, Candace is already banned, but you need to ban these mainstream people, because speaking of that bottom-up social change, right? Like, no one is going to care until it's someone really mainstream. And that's just it. I mean, it's this is the thing. It's like, I see, people getting like, no, sorry, this is fascism, this is censorship, blah, 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 whatever. This is supporting censorship. No, this is strategy and this is tactics, right? This is like, these are the same. I love it when this is like, people are like this on the right? These are the people who glorify military service, who glorify just, sacrifice for your country in warfare and stuff like that. This is that sacrifice, right? This is warfare. You will have people who need to take, you'll have people who will need to give something up for this, right? Like, what is it? It's like boohoo, like Crowder's like not going to make money for a while. Milo is like destroyed financially, right? And a lot of that is his fault. But Laura can't get paid. She's banned from everything crowdfunding, right? People who have put their whole lives on the line for this have already made the sacrifice, already experienced this. It's time for someone mainstream to do the same. And given what they claim they stand for and the rhetoric that they use, they really shouldn't have a problem with this. They should be totally on board. If you think it's so noble to go off and die in some pointless Middle East war, like, well, at least do this. What kind of sacrifice is this in comparison, right? Anyway, so that's what it's about. It's not about censoring someone because they're boring and normie. Although maybe that's icing on the cake. I don't know. A lot of people ban our false provided leaders. I don't know what that means exactly. Do you mean like controlled opposition? Because there's some of that. I think each person has to decide for themselves. Everything is tricky. Everything's tricky because any tactic you use can be appropriated by your enemy. And so it goes. But that's why you have to be agile and abandon things when they don't work anymore, right? Even if they're fun. Speaking of things that don't work, Twitter. Twitter doesn't really work. I was off Twitter for a while, and then now I was like, well, I'll go back on Twitter and see if it's possible to do anything there besides argue with midwits, which is pretty fun. I do like arguing with midwits. It's pretty fun. But let's see. Yeah, there's not much going on there besides that. I gotta say, it's like the shadow banning is in some ways worse than the banning, because at least when you're banned, you just go elsewhere. Or I suppose some people start new accounts, which is also against the rules and was what got Nick banned so many years later. But there's an impermanence to Twitter, and then also a weird permanence. It's like basically the permanence of Twitter is the parts of Twitter that are permanent are parts that can only hurt you, right? It's like Twitter is the way to get fired in 5 to 10 years. It's like a meme Lauren shared recently. And so they can hurt you and it really can't help you. It's like no one who's trying to evaluate you from a positive perspective is like going back through your tweets and being like, oh, wow, this person tweeted something really insightful like 5 years ago. Like they're a great person, right? So there's that side of it. And then there's just, I don't know if it's the algorithm or that people have moved on or what, or it's not a visual enough medium or something like that, but it's not there. There's also the fact that it's like it's too removed. I think it's a little too anonymous and not connected enough to the normies, not connected enough to kind of the meat space stuff. So as painful as it is to be on Facebook, that's probably more effective if you're really interested in fighting that battle. I personally won't do it because I just don't want to deal with Facebook and the data stuff. But yeah, so I don't think I will not shut down my Twitter because I don't want someone taking the handle and pretending to be me or something like that. But I don't think that Twitter is where it's at. Don't think so. But I should probably do another stream talking about that sort of strategy and tactic stuff instead of mashing it up with another conversation. Let's make fun of midwits. Why not? I'm talking to one now. Epic goalpost moving here. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. What is this even about? I don't understand. So we're going to talk about John's diet because why not, right? So John gives this diet thing. It's just so okay. There's a lot to unpack here, actually. So John tweets this thing saying, basically, here's the important part. It's like commercially raised beef and poultry. You like avoid that. He's going to try that in his diet, right? Good luck, John. I wish you the best. I don't do this. it's expensive, is one reason. But, you know, I kind of understand the arguments for it. And, you know, I'm of two minds about it. I see huge benefits, obviously, to the commercialization of food. But I think that people are basically retarded on both sides. The people who think that it's all awesome and there's nothing wrong with it are retarded. And the people who think that it's all evil and terrible are also retarded. So here's one in the former category of retardation. Farmed meat is safer bacteriologically than locally sourced organic killed with hug stuff because it gets tested a lot. Organic is just modern snake oil. Okay, this has nothing to do with what John is talking about. John is talking about the nutritional content of meat. Nothing about this list. We're talking about John's diet here, right? Nothing about this list is related to some attempt to avoid disease. It's not like John got E. coli like 5 times last year and therefore is changing his diet. Right? He's looking for the highest quality nutrition he can get. And yeah, commercially raised beef and poultry is not the place to get that. That we know this is not even debatable at this point, right? We know that there is superior quality. There's like when you eat the food, the effect that it has on you, what that food ate makes a difference. It's all trade-offs. Life is trade-offs, right? I still go eat at McDonald's sometimes. There's trade-offs, but don't be in denial about them, right? So then this is a totally different topic. The question of how do you make sure that your meat is safe in certain respects is a different topic than how do you find the food with the best nutrition. So of course, the midwit always thinks that whatever they want to talk about is the important thing, never mind what the topic actually is. So I told him bacteria is obviously not the concern here, nutrition is. Then it's like, you'll feel differently when you get E. coli or salmonella. I remember a family of 6 who was hospitalized because of listeria and homemade deer sausage. To which I say, great, 6 people got sick from making something they made themselves. There's no risk of systemic outbreak. Meanwhile, last week, like here's a bunch of people hospitalized from E. coli, like 200 people, right? And of course, the response is, let's not deal with this at all. Wow, May 13th is coming up on 3 weeks ago. Just saying, okay, sorry, it wasn't last week. It was 3 weeks ago. Very smart boy. Very smart boy. Pat on the head. Go to the front of the class and get your gold star. Yes, people get sick from meats from slaughterhouses. No system is perfect, but recalls go out for everything. Remember the romaine lettuce recall at the end of last year? Thank you for just proving that commercial foods are not safe. Brilliant guy. The nutrition in food doesn't change from the source of the nutrients. Yes, it does. Additives in food make it safer for hundreds of millions to eat. That is false. It befuddles me how so many think healthy living is a return to barbarism in some way without realizing nature is trying to kill you. Straw man, false dichotomy, bro. Okay. So, I don't know. Somewhere else in that thread is someone preemptively defending Monsanto, even though John didn't even mention that. I'm a big fan of innovation, innovators, entrepreneurs, business, all this kind of stuff. I will definitely go to battle for, legitimately virtuous companies that are trying to make the world a better place and doing good stuff. I just find it a little weird. To be like, oh, I need to be out here actively patrolling the internet to defend giant corporation that doesn't give a shit about me. Like, I'm sorry. Anything that is a big, especially publicly traded company, they just don't care. They care about quarterly results. They don't even care about their own employees, let alone the people buying their products. Let alone some random person on Twitter who's like going out of their way to defend them. It's just, I think it's another example of the way that our relationships are just very broken, right? It's like you don't have community ties anymore. You don't have family units that are stable. You are totally adrift in this like atomized individualism hellhole. And so you're making up fake relationships with multinational corporations. That's what's happening. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but it's like you have attachment issues. You're psychologically broken. You were probably raised in daycare or public school or something like that. And you're looking for validation from freaking Monsanto. Like, what? I'm sorry. I am undecided. I haven't looked into the Roundup stuff. I'm not like inherently an anti-Monsanto person. I just don't like anything that takes the attitude of like all technology is great and perfect and there's no risk and no downside, right? Like I think overall it moves us in a good direction most of the time, but I don't think we should be just mindless drones about it, right? I mean, there are just amazing things that we've developed, like asbestos is like an amazing chemical and then it killed a bunch of people, right? Amazing product. Is it a chemical? Well, anyway, whatever. So get a life. Get a life. It's pointless to say because they're midwits, so they don't even know. Like they legitimately think these are real arguments, right? Like, here's my goalpost here, here, here. Here's this thing that like directly contradicts and something I said. Here's something that proves like someone else's point. But because I used a lot of words and threw in a certain amount of snark, I nitpick something that's totally irrelevant. I'm the smart boy. A+, head of the class. Thank you, public school system. Fun times. Thanks, guys. I try to be pretty. I don't know. Seems like the least I can do for the world. Really glad to be having dairy again, gotta say. Thank goodness for baby allergies going away. What else is going on? People are ridiculous. Well, the other problem is like, I learned this a while ago that I used to kind of gravitate toward people intellectually or even as friends based on having shared conclusions with them. And then as I went along, I started to discover that the conclusions are not nearly as important as the process. And I could find people who actually had fairly different conclusions than me, but whose process I actually respected, who could put together a coherent chain of reasoning, who had, I don't know how to describe it. To me, it's something like, mental flexibility. There's all this talk about, what are they called? Cognitive dissonance is the example of it, right? But all these, ways that your brain like screws up all the ways that we're not logical, all these biases and things like that. And it's not like, I don't like that conversation very much because the way that we're talking about it is very black pilled. It's very like, oh, this proves that people can't be rational. They can't be logical. Logic is pointless, blah, blah, blah. And this is, again, to me, this like problem of you're not going to do that based on facts and logic. But if you're actually focused on the world that you inhabit, that you do have influence over, your family, your kids, your local community, all of that, again, it's going to be, it's going to have to be another stream where I kind of talk about my recent adventures in meat space, but just really anywhere, right? Like people you talk to at the coffee shop, that kind of stuff, you have a lot of influence there. And yeah, not all of that is them, rigorously applying facts and logic, but it's very different than the stuff of like, mass persuasion and, these things that a lot of people don't like too. I mean, especially people on the right. They feel kind of dirty when they play that way. We need people who will do that. Those are the leaders, but that's not how you need to operate, as long as you're in the right place for it. And the right place for that is meat space. The right place for that is like small groups and your church and your local coffee shop and your community and whatever. So, but people don't even have that. So they're spending their time defending freaking Monsanto on Twitter, which is just like, first of all, people get paid for that. You know that, right? Like Monsanto hires like trolls to go harass people who say that Roundup causes cancer. Spoiler alert, Roundup probably causes cancer. It's also pretty awesome though. It's the only thing that kills scrub oak. Yeah, so then you just view everyone as crazy. And so this is the thing. It's like the correct answer, like I had a pretty eye-opening experience over the last few years of gaining more appreciation for the physical side of my existence, right? The fact that my consciousness inhabits a physical form and it's affected by these things, right? It's affected by what I'm eating. It's affected by whether I exercise. It's affected by my metabolism, all these things. Like we're in like this meat suit and that has consequences, right? And there are really beautiful things about that and then kind of scary things about that. And that's why I see this. It's like, we don't want to just be like, oh, shoot, like people have biases sometimes. Oh, shoot, people like aren't very good at estimating probabilities or something like that, right? Therefore, let's throw out rationality. Let's throw out reason. Let's just forget about like humans and like and treat it as though we have no thinking ability whatsoever. That's not the situation at all. That's not at all the situation. The whole point of identifying things like that is like the more you understand your limitations, the more you can operate effectively in the sphere that you can control, right? And the more you can push those limits too. I mean, by that logic, it's like, oh, we shouldn't be like like the Olympics would be pointless or something like that. It's like if we could sit down and kind of make a theory about what human beings are physically capable of, and we would be wrong. There's a really interesting result that people had at one point. What was it? It was like typing speed. What was the fastest a person could type? So if you saw the average that a person can type, you would think that it's like the average person types 200 words a minute or something. So what would the fastest be? Like 2, 3, 4 times that, something like that? No, the fastest is like 15 times that or something like that, right? Like we just don't realize these things until we start exploring them. And that's what all this understanding of like the limitations on our brain, that's the framework you should be using that in, right? Like you're using that to improve the way that your brain operates. You're not using it to be fatalistic. All right. No more sleep. Here's a cat. There's a baby. Time to go. Bye, guys.